For once, the weatherman was spot on, and we've got blaring sun, and it's the first day since I've been home from my travels where it was hot every day and I was t-shirts, I was vests, that I'm in a t-shirt. I am also going gym, but I haven't got my coat for the episode today because it's lovely. Today, it's actually been 5 years since I was told in my college classroom at about 2 p.m., 3 p.m. that I most likely would not be going in on Monday, the 23rd of March, because of COVID 19. I was like, what's that? What is that? I had no idea. Hadn't been keeping up with the news. I wasn't really in a great place mentally, so I wasn't really thinking about anything really. I was sort of just having an internal struggle quite consistently for about 6 months after leaving school. And I just got told that I was going to be at home. And in the state I was in, I was like, this is not going to be good for me. This is not going to be good for me. I was doing really well. I at school I'd failed. I'd not reached my potential at all with the grades I should have got in my GCSEs. Went to college, I was thriving. I was in a new environment. I was doing well. I was getting good enough grades that, I mean, at this point, university wasn't even in the conversation. But it ultimately got me there, really. The grades that I put in at college, the effort I put in, it got me there. But COVID hit, and I was like, wow, what am I going to do now? How is this going to work? And everyone else was thinking the same thing as me. How is this going to work? In the early days, so 20th of March, and then you got that weekend where you got told stay at home, and life changed overnight, and it was like, what is happening? And no one knew. And from Monday that next week, I was online learning, and do you know what I will say? That was class. At first, that was class. When I was doing the March to May sessions at home on my iPad, log in for a couple of hours, get the work done, submit it into an email, boom, Bob's your uncle, got it all done. It was easy. And you just sort of logged in from bed at 9 a.m. every day and then logged out when you were done. And it was like, sweet as. At this time as well in COVID, it was also the golden era for gaming for me. I was 17, and I was playing FIFA 20. Loved that game. Played way too many hours on it. I wouldn't even want to look how long I played on it. Warzone with the boys. That was good because it was like you have to pay for it. I mean, I can't remember if it was an add-on for the COD that I'd already bought that year, or if it was its own game. But I think it was its own game. And then played that, and we were all rubbish, but it was a good laugh. And then just doom scrolling TikTok and just watching loads of, like, at this time, decent videos on TikTok. Nowadays, not so much, is awful, and I've deleted the app because it's nonsense. Everyone was online 24/7. And me and my mates, we had daily group calls every single day for almost the minute from when we logged out of school at like, what, 1, 2, all night long. And then when we all finished in like May till what it would have been, what, September, so like 4 months, we were pretty much on a group call for some days 14 hours just playing Xbox and talking and just doing stuff where we couldn't go and see each other because we were in the restricted guidelines, but just had a good laugh. In these group calls as well, we also went on like some of the apps where you meet new people all over the world that are on the apps, and making new online friends became like a big part of how people interacted with people rather than real world interactions because we couldn't. In this other, like, added on point for the new social norms, I started talking to someone online in this first lockdown, and I'd never had a relationship at this point, and I was like I said before, I was naive to sort of like what it's really about. I had no comparison to dating normally or anything like that, but I just went for it, started chatting, and then when restrictions eventually lifted in like the summer and August, started dating full time, and long distance for you, like it was strange, but like I said, I had nothing to compare it to, so for me, it was just like nice. Like it's just like, oh, I've got a partner here, quite, I'm really happy. my whole life in the past year, I've gone from being a failure at school to sort of doing well at college and having a nice girlfriend. But that's just what happens, and it sort of all worked out for me in that first year and in that first COVID lockdown. But then what it did do for a lot of people, it turned relationships more casual rather than putting in the effort, and that's not for me. And that's why I'm still sort of struggling to find someone now, because the mentality that got everyone's heads in COVID, it's sort of stuck around really, and we're not reaping the benefits of that at all. In the second lockdown in December, that was awful. Apart from that, I got one exam cancelled, which pretty much got me to university. It was horrendous. It was horrible. Had to do all my uni applying with like not a lot of communication with people at college. I had to sort of think for myself. It was cold, it was miserable, it was rubbish, and we sort of went back to reality because we stopped the restrictions in the summer. We just had to sort of start all over again. It was like, oh, what is going on? And it killed the mood completely, and it was horrible for me. But we moved, we got out of it. It is clear that some people are thriving now, 5 years on, but there's also a sense that people are still stuck in their old routine of years ago, and they've not changed. They've not made an effort to change, and they had all that time to change in them 2 lockdowns, and they didn't make the effort. And it's clear to see, and it's like you could have just taken that step, because I can see that you're still behaving the same, and they've not made that effort. Now, if we jump forward to the year after, so this will be over a year after COVID had first started, and I'd gone back to college. I had like hybrid learning, and I got into uni. I got into Bournemouth, and I mean that was miserable. Applying for that in COVID, oh, that was miserable and horrible, and I literally didn't want to go and all that jazz. When I got there, it was so clear that some people were desperate to socialise again. Like me, I was like, this is my college. I started socialising with different people that are out of my normal circles at home, because no one was there really. And when I got to college, I started doing that, and then when I got to uni, I went, let's just do it on a bigger scale. Let's just make loads of new people. I don't know anyone in Bournemouth, and I'm not going to get anywhere unless I put an effort in to make new friends. A lot of the flats that I found, like I got to find out, is that a lot of them that weren't very social flats, and a lot of them didn't really talk to one another, go out with one another, and a lot of the time they would mix in with our flat and go out with us and make a little separate groups. Because my flat was unbelievable. I got so lucky. Everyone was calm, everyone was sound, everyone wanted to go out, socialise, talk, spend time with each other in the evenings, and we all got on that. And I took it for granted, because that was the best year of my life. And I always just sit and think like, oh man, if only I could just stay forever, 2022, in that house share with them group of people in that point in my life. And it was just so fun, and I literally never wanted it to end. And when everyone moved out and I was the last one there for about a week on my own, I was like, this is so bad, but like I've had such a ride here this year, and it was just brilliant. In terms of the actual studying side, hybrid learning, which we'd continued on from COVID, some people the year before me, they didn't go campus, so their first day on campus was my first day on campus a year later, just because of how like the restrictions were working, where you couldn't enter schools. I was lucky where with the remote learning, I could go in, go on my laptop, but then with how some people are, they just didn't go to the campus, and then they ended up just dropping out of that first year because it weren't for them, this sort of hybrid study, and they wanted to be all in, and or some of them weren't committed in the first place. They applied in COVID, and they were like, yeah, I can do it, and then really they never had the discipline to do it. Also with the non-studying side again, is that I got a great freshers, and I think it's because everyone just wanted to just go all out again, and a lot of us had just turned 18 in COVID, and we were like, let's just go hard. So we ended up just getting smashed so often, having a great time, meeting new friends. I keep saying, going to all the new bars. And in the next 2 years, my second and third year, because I was just in Bournemouth and all the uni starts at the end of September, in these 2 freshers weeks at the start of September, I just did them again and they were rubbish. And I was like, what has happened in 1 year where everyone's just got less fun? And I definitely see it where, like, I think my year of people in school was the last year of just like excitable fun going out, and now it's a lot of copy and paste, just like naff stuff, and like I reaped the benefits of just sort of like how exciting it was. But we also have to take into hindsight that without COVID, I would never have got to uni. I would never have been given the grades to go and then get into uni, experience it all, and sort of change how the course of my life ended up going. Also, with uni, you've got the sort of how it was like resetting my life and how I needed that reset, and I got it all out. I got out of my first relationship, and I just had to meet new people, and these people ended up becoming sort of my lifelong friends, and I had to break out of this bubble rather than just staying where I was. And obviously, like I said, I didn't want to go, but then once I experienced it for the first few months, I was like, this was the best decision ever. And financially, I might look back on this in a few years and go, no, it wasn't. And I keep having to pay my loans every month, and I'm having less money for myself to enjoy my life. But for that 1 year, I mean, for the 3 years, I lived with different people all 3 years. For them 3 years, I'll take it. I will take it. Obviously, as well from that, I've also graduated. I've also had a few more holidays, and I hadn't, before like COVID, I had 2019, and then I hadn't gone on holiday until 2022. So 3 years I hadn't gone away because of just loads of restrictions and stuff. And I've been to Barcelona, Gran Canaria, and then obviously traveled Southeast Asia this summer. And that had to be done for me. I had to get that traveling out my system, and I had a great time. With the graduation as well, what it really gave me was a proper sense of achievement that I sort of hadn't had really, because I failed my GCSE. Like, I let myself down. I didn't fail, but I let myself down with like how it ended up. And after failure previously, the success of my degree, it just made everything worth it. Where, because I didn't do that well there, my college and my degree just sort of completely changed how I look at myself and how I feel the sense of achievement, rather than just a negative light on how I didn't do good enough and I let people down. And now my most recent grades are great, and I'm happy with it. I said before that I can see people thriving and people stuck in a routine. You also see people that are stuck in that year behind. So like for example, Euro 2020 got called off and it got moved to 2021, but they still called it Euro 2020. And you can sort of take that same reasoning for people as well, where it sort of didn't exist that year for them, and they were still on catch up, and they, whilst I was trying to be proactive in my socialising in COVID to sort of just come out of my shell a bit more and talk to people and make an effort in the time where we weren't really having a lot of communication with one another, people didn't, and it was as if time paused. And you can see it now with people that you're just out and about. You can see that they behave a year behind, and it's a weird way to put it, and unless you can really see it for yourself, but you can see it. Other points of just how life's changed: hybrid and remote working is now expected. There's a backlog on bookings, appointments. So this is GP, this is driving, this is hospital, this is NHS. It's becoming a real problem, and one that will be hard to catch up, because there's a lot of people aren't going into STEM study to fill these voids of employment. And a lot of people, like what it did in COVID as well, was a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs now. And what I will say is that fair play to you if you want to do that. And I'd never really have an interest in having my own brand or anything like that in terms of like product. But what I will say is that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. And a lot of people will have to just fall into these jobs that need to be done. And we can't, well, yes, we all want our own freedom. We have to put the effort in to make this freedom. If you're not going to do that, then you are just going to have to settle with the jobs that need to be done. I also think people's people skills have declined. But also, in this time of struggle, I think we really identified well-being conversations, problems with mental health, where we started having to speak it out more. At this point, 2019, going into COVID, I was really struggling, and when I sort of just like had less to worry about in the lockdown, where I didn't have a responsibility to get work done, which I'd had to do for like 9-10 years of school. It was like an extended. It was like finishing for the 104 days of summer vacation. It was like that. That's what it was like for me. Where like every day is just a laugh. I wake up, I just have fun. It was literally like I was living in Phineas and Ferb. But we unlocked a lot of things where people started talking about how they're feeling more because they had more time to themselves to think. This is like me at the moment. I'm still trying to find work. So in this time, I'm spending a lot of it thinking about my life's problems and the world as it is, and how I'm looking to sort of change it for myself and others. Nowadays, though, what we are seeing, like I said before, when TikTok was around in COVID, I was having a great time, having a laugh, and it was just like good content, good silly content. Now it's rot. I've said this before. It's rot. It's filling our brains with pointless information, rubbish. I've deleted it because it's unhealthy for me now, and I can obviously download it whenever I want to watch Batman and Harry's travel videos from Asia, and it's good stuff. And that's good. But I've made it, so I know it's good. I know it's not stupid, like nonsense, like crap where it's repetible ads and promotion and just people doing repetitive same things. It's just sort of what's happened, and we're going to really struggle to get out of that thing unless people start becoming more creative with themselves, which we've also discussed before, how people have lost their creative spark. People have, and a lot of people found it, but I think more people lost it because they found that internal struggle with them in COVID, which they weren't previously thinking about, which is sad, but also probably eventually going to be expected. The 3 points though with things that we think more about now since COVID though is that I think, like I said, with people trying to be entrepreneurs, we've appreciated our freedom more and our worth and where we want to go with our life. And for me as well, like I've started actually thinking more deeply about my dreams and what I actually want to achieve by a certain age, while not rushing into it, but just sort of having an idea. Because without an idea, what are you going to get done really? We're more focused on our health. My dad actually had a scare in COVID whilst we were eating dinner, and we had to have the paramedics round. And at that point, I didn't know what to do, and I was like, ah, God. And from that point, you sort of just think like literally could happen at any time, and it wasn't even a COVID emergency; it was just another life emergency. And it was like, damn. And then I sort of went to uni. I did the drinking and stuff like that, and then I found out my mum was ill as well. So then within these 5 years, both my parents have been a bit ill, and I've then come back from uni, from travelling. I've got to make a change as well, or I'm gonna fall down a path where I'm not happy with my body. I'm not happy with my health. I'm getting unwell. I'm struggling with sleep, and I'm struggling with operating on a daily level to communicate with people and sort of be myself. And we also have less tolerance for unnecessary stress. A lot of us aren't just going into conversations where we know there's going to be a problem out of it. For me, I don't argue anymore. It's just like, why do I need to argue? If I know I'm right, just keep it to myself and keep the peace. And I think a lot of us are doing that. And with this unnecessary stress, it's affecting our mentals, which have been brought up more. So we know how to deal with it more now. And there's more videos and stuff out there to help us with our well-being, where we don't, whilst we might get stressed, we know how to deal with it more. And I think that's the most useful thing of how we have started changing our lives post-COVID. But these last 5 years, you look at it and go, wow, it's been 5 years. It's been mental. And now we look back and we go, some of it, we've obviously lost a lot of people. We've lost a lot of people to COVID-19, but it also saved a lot of people in the place they were and how they've come out on the other side 5 years later, and they're reaping the rewards of sort of adapting to this new way of life that we've not chosen to live, but sort of been forced and directed to live. And hopefully the next 5 years will be, let's say, a bit nicer to me than the last 5 years. Even though I've had a great time, I've achieved so much compared to what I'd previously not before that. And yeah, hopefully I keep living and staying happy.